Right fellas, summer is round the corner. We have roughly 8 to 10 weeks until the holidays start popping up, until the weather is better, the beer gardens are out, and yeah, it's just that time of year, that social time of year where everyone is trying to get in shape, getting ready so they can feel confident. And in this video, I'm going to be walking through the 5 steps that I would recommend you start taking action with now if you want to feel good later down the line in summer. We don't want to be the fat mate on holiday. We don't want to be feeling self-conscious in social events. We want to be going into the summer feeling on top of the world and the best version of you. So I'm going to be walking through the exact steps that I use with my clients to get progress like this. So I'd say the first and arguably the most important step is identify what your goal is and why that is your goal, because ultimately this is the foundation of why you're going to embark on this journey. This is why you're going to train hard. This is why you're going to show up each and every week. If your goal is shit and it doesn't really mean much to you, there's no sort of clarity or meaning behind the goal, then you're not gonna have the drive when the hard weeks kick in, when the motivation lowers, when the hunger increases. When we have a more specific goal and you're connected to that goal, you're going to want to persevere on the hard weeks, on the hard days. So as I said here, spend time on your goal. Really think about why you want to do, this process, why you want to get in shape for summer, and just in general, not even just for summer, just in day-to-day life, and write it down also. Like whenever we just say we want to achieve a certain goal and we just keep it up here, it can easily slip your mind with everything that we've got going on with work, kids, training, etc. It's just too easy to let it slip. So make sure you can write it somewhere visual, whether it be a whiteboard, on a stick-it note, on your phone, and that's going to remind you of why you started in the first place, and just to keep the goal top of mind. So when it comes to obviously identifying the goal, there's sort of 2 ways we can angle it from. We have pain and we have desire. So pain is something we're trying to get away from, something that is not comfortable and you're not happy with at this moment in time. That could be, low in self-confidence, you're not really feeling the best in your clothes, we don't really have much energy, we want to try and feel more confidence in around the pool or something like that. Like we're just not really feeling the best. So this is something we're trying to get away from, which will be solved through training, nutrition, etc. And the desire is what we're trying to work towards. That is the end point, what we want to try and reach, and that could be basically the opposite of pain, which is you want to feel more confident on holiday. You want to have the ability to wear whatever you want, to walk with confidence, to just act with confidence day-to-day life, rather than feeling like you need to put on a facade, or just maybe to feel more attractive to your partner, to feel more capable in certain situations, whether it be to do with strength, fitness, etc. So yeah, those 2 sort of elements is what we're going to focus on, coming away from pain and towards desire. Okay, so once we have your goals and they're clear and they're mapped out, next what we need to do is calculate the nutrition based off your goal and your current height, weight, activity level, to reach a sustainable level of fat loss. So first we're going to start off with calculating your maintenance calories. Now an easy way to do this is take your body weight in kilograms and times it between 22 and 24. 22 if you are a little bit more sedentary and maybe you have an office job, you don't really get much movement in throughout the day. 24 if you're an active individual, you're on your feet most of the day, you've got an active job, you're a labourer, something like that. And that's gonna give you your maintenance calories, which is how many calories you need on a day-to-day basis to just maintain your weight. What I would advise once you have those calories is just track those calories for a week using something like MyFitnessPal or by keeping a food diary. And that's just gonna allow us to identify if they are actually your maintenance calories. It's sometimes hard to pinpoint exactly the numbers. So we need to collect a little bit of data first by tracking your weight every single day for a week. Once we've done that, and if the maintenance come out and you maintain a steady weight, we want to take that maintenance calorie number and times that by 0.8. And what that's going to do, it's going to give us a 20% calorie deficit. So it could be anywhere between you know, 200 to 300 calories minus this number, which is going to allow us to start dropping body fat, because we're eating less calories than we need on a day-to-day basis to start dropping body fat. And from there, that's going to be your calorie target. I want you to stick to this for the duration of the 8 to 10 weeks. Sometimes we need to change it depending on progress, which I'll come on to at another point. In terms of macro setting, ultimately your calories are going to be the fundamental. That if you are, you know, out of your calories, you simply won't drop body weight. But getting your macros will allow us to have a good distribution, a good balance of food at the same time, and make sure that we're getting enough protein in to recover from our training and hold that lean muscle mass. So for protein, we want to aim for between 2 to 2.6 kilos. 2 to 2.6 grams per kilogram of body weight. So I am 100 kilos, so my daily protein target will be 200 grams per day. Usually it would be 2 to 2.6 depending on how much muscle mass you have. So if you have a little bit more muscle mass, you might have more protein towards the 2.6 mark rather than the 2 gram mark. When it comes to fats, we want 0.5 grams per kilogram of body weight. We want to try and minimize the total fat intake, because fat has 9 calories per gram. It's the most calorific nutrient, so we just want to watch our intake with fats. And carbs, we just want to fill in the rest. So majority wise, we're going to be having a little bit more carbs and protein than we are fats, just to make sure that we can recover and we can hold that lean muscle mass with protein, but we can also have a decent amount of carbs to fuel our training and have energy on a day-to-day basis. Now, our third step is training. Now, this is obviously going to be important because we want to preserve as much lean muscle mass whilst you're dropping body fat, and that's what's going to give you the look that you're after, which is obviously less body fat, more muscle tissue. It's going to create that more toned and, you know, aesthetic look. So ultimately, training depends on your skill level and your availability to train. We have 2 options really that I want you to choose between over the next few weeks. We have a 3-day full body, which, as you guessed it, involves training your full body 3 times per week. 1 muscle group from the body parts per session, you know, 1 for chest, 1 for back, 1 for delts, 1 for legs, and 1 for arms. And we'll do that 3 times across the week. Or we have a 4-day upper lower. So 2 uppers, 2 lowers, Monday, Tuesday, rest Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So depending on your skill level and your availability, you know, if you have a wider availability to train, I would advise the 4-day upper lower. Vice versa, if you don't have much time, I would advise the 3-day full body. The most important thing with your training is make sure that you enjoy it, that you can make progress from it, and it is sustainable for you to stick to. If it ticks those 3 boxes, we're on to a winner. The next thing is progressive overload each week. We want to be demanding our body to change week by week, and that will be either by increasing the load that we're using in the exercises, or increasing the amount of reps that we're doing per exercise, or increasing the tempo by controlling the weight a little bit better, or, you know, improving our technique week on week. So we need to look for ways that we can progress and demand that physical change week by week. We don't want to just coast and do the same weights and the same lifts with no real increase in intensity, because that's not going to demand the change and a stimulus from our muscles. So that leads me on to my next point, which is intensity. Now, intensity is going to be huge. You need to drive your muscles close to failure as possible. So if we are driving that intensity high, then ultimately that's going to force our body to hold on to as much muscle tissue as possible whilst we're in this calorie deficit, which is going to give you the look that you want, rather than just becoming a smaller version of yourself right now. So intensity is going to be huge for that. The last one we have is steps and optional cardio. So the gym session is 1 hour of your day. So how much movement we get outside of that gym session is going to dictate the amount of calories that we're going to be burning across the week collectively. And obviously for a calorie deficit, the more calories we burn, less calories we eat, and that's what's going to allow us to drop body fat. So if we are more active and our expenditure is doing this, but our calories stay down here, that's what's going to allow us to drop body fat a little bit quicker and a little bit more efficiently. So give yourself a target between 8 to 12,000 steps per day. And yeah, just try and get in as much movement as you possibly can. If you feel like things might stagnate a little bit, or that just isn't really doing much for you, or you can't maybe get that amount of steps in, then I would advise to add some optional cardio into the week. It's 2 to 3 easy sessions, so things like bike, Stairmaster, where you're getting your heart rate to between 130 to 140 beats per minute, and you're on it for anywhere between 15 to 20 minutes. Now, the next step we have is rate of loss. Now, with rate of loss, we just want to be making sure that you are dropping body fat at an efficient rate. So it's not too fast to the point where we start losing muscle tissue as well as body fat, but equally it's not too slow to the point where you start to become frustrated and unmotivated because we're not seeing changes quick enough. So to give you a guide of how quickly we want to be dropping body fat over the next few weeks, we want to be aiming for around 0.5 to 1.5% of body weight each week. Now, this will fluctuate depending on, the person. People who have a little bit more weight to lose might be on the upper end of the spectrum of the 1.5% because they generally have more body fat to lose. So the body will break that down quicker. But when you do start your initial fat loss journey, you'll probably start at the higher end of 1.5% per week. Likely due to a drop in glycogen and water when you start making food changes early on. As you go along, this might drop off, but to 1% or 0.75%, but ultimately you want to make sure that it falls in that range. So let's say, for example, again, 100 kilo person, you want to be looking at around a 1 kilo loss per week on average. If the number is any lower than 0.5% per week and things start to slow down, then I would look at decreasing your calories by 50 to 100 calories per day. And this will likely just be because your metabolism might start to adjust to the lower calories that you're on, and your body is basically trying to survive on the lower calories, and it's just basically creating a new energy balance, which obviously we don't want. We want that negative energy balance to continue dropping body fat. So to get around this, we want to obviously manipulate the amount of energy we are using and consuming day to day by either decreasing calories by 50 to 100 calories or increasing cardio per day. So we basically do this with expenditure to keep the calorie balance negative at the end of the day. So you could add another 20-minute cardio session on top of your week. And with this sort of rate of loss in mind, that should give you a goal target of 8 weeks for 8 kilos. So it could range anywhere between 7 to 12 kilos over 8 weeks, depending on obviously how aggressive and how compliant you are to your plan. Now, the last step that I wanted to touch on is one that many people don't really think about, and they should do, because if they don't, things start to get wishy-washy, and that is planning. Plan. The more that we can plan when you are doing your sessions, when you are hitting, doing your meal preps, when you are going to be eating your meals, when you're getting your steps in, when you're doing your cardio, the more clarity you have in your week, that's going to increase the likelihood that you are actually going to carry out those tasks that you need to do when it comes to seeing the results that we want. So the common saying, fail to prepare, prepare to fail. Whenever you're not organized and you're just wishy-washy, things, we forget things, we let standards slip, and the results just get pushed back rather than you being productive and getting done what you need to get done. So this is the most important thing. Spend some intentional time looking at your week from a bird's eye view and looking where it's possible to get your sessions in for the week. What are the commitments you have in the week, whether it be work, kids, family, social. We want to allow you to create a routine that is sustainable, that you can stay consistent with and that you're going to enjoy. So don't just go into your weeks blind and running around like a headless chicken. Spend 10 minutes of a Sunday looking at your week and looking where you're going to get stuff done. So those are the 5 steps that I recommend you take if you want to drop between 8 to 12 kilos just before summertime, so that you can feel the best and look the best you ever have. And if you want a little bit more support or guidance with these steps and knowing how to actually implement them in your day-to-day lifestyle, you can either drop me a message on Instagram at samcully/nextlevel, Or you can click the link below and use some of my free resources that will help educate you and understand how to implement them into your day-to-day lifestyle. So that is for today's video. If you enjoyed it, drop a like and I will see you in the next one.